Dr. Lincoln.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. $2.4 million in cuts to private daycare operators is discriminatory. It is wrong on so many levels. The Gallant government doesn't understand the impact of the $2.4 million cuts to private daycare operators, the impact to jobs, the impact to parent fees, and in particular the impact on women. The Premier is responsible for women's equity, and he needs to know that 97% of private daycare operators are owned or co-owned by women. These women entrepreneurs, with this cut of $2.4 million, will actually make less than their employees. My question to the Premier, the Minister responsible for women's equity, did you analyze the impact of this cut and the impact onto the women of New Brunswick?
The Honourable Minister of Education.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I mentioned yesterday, we are quite aware of the important role played by women in this field, early childhood education, and we know very well that generally speaking, women are employees in the daycare sector. We know very well that typically women are paid close to minimum wage, and that is why for these employees, we this year are increasing by $2.8 million to ensure that these women receive a decent wage so that they are able to offer to our youth, our future quality education, a really good start to their lives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Dr. Lincoln.
Mr. Speaker, why the Minister's response is further upsetting the daycare operators of New Brunswick and the employees in daycares is that these employees are already getting $3 and $5 top-up. The new money the Minister's talking about is because of the growth of the program and the new spaces to fund those new spaces. So no one's getting a raise in funding because of this government, but you know what? Some people will lose their jobs, and this is a problem. In trying to help operators find solutions, government staff are advising these operators, these entrepreneurs, to relicense their operations under their spouses' names. We don't have to tell anyone in this House that women have worked too long to fight for their right and their equity. Mr. Premier, Minister responsible for women's equity, are you satisfied that women are being told to simply change the name of their license to their spouse?
Member, the Honourable Minister of Education.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, I must admit that when the opposition member is talking about a cut of $2.4 million, that is not the case, Mr. Speaker. We're talking about an increase in this case, an increase because, yes, the needs are there, and I want to assure this House that everything that has to do with early childhood education, anything with regards to daycare, is so important that this year we have increased the budget for early childhood education by $3.5 million. So we're at $76.7 million. So when you talk about cuts, once again, when they're trying to do fear-mongering tactics here in the House, I find that awful, because here we're talking about the future of our province. And yes, we will continue to invest in this sector because it is a very important sector. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Dr. Lincoln.
Yes, the Premier has increased this program, a net increase of $400,000, but to pay for this growth, they're cutting the owner-operators of private daycares $2.4 million so that these owner-operators, 97% are women, will actually make less than the employees he pretends to be supporting, when in fact no one's getting a raise and some will lose their jobs. In trying to help operators, the government employees, and I'll ask my question again to the Premier, government employees are trying to provide advice and suggesting that these women change the name on their license to be relicensed in order to get this funding into the name of their spouses. Again, simply setting back women's rights and equality in this province, and in fact, and also resulting in no savings for the government. The Premier, the Minister responsible for women's equity, has said that he takes this seriously, women's equity. Did you analyze this, and are you satisfied this is the answer to these women entrepreneurs?
The Honourable Minister of Education.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, this government is fully aware of the importance of pay equity, of women's equity, and that is why we are decreasing the total amount that's being put into the program that we're talking about. This being said, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to remind you that the women employed in this sector are women that have only the revenue, which is their employment income. So the intention of this program is to recruit and to retain employees in this sector in order to offer quality education to our children. Quality daycare services, Mr. Speaker. So yes, we made a choice to redistribute the money for the best, in the best interest of the children and for the best interest of the future of this program.